Am I on? Hi everyone, it's Lyndsey. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be doing something different today. I'm actually going to be talking about a true crime story while applying my makeup. Haven't done this before. It's the first time. Again, my lighting is kind of meh right here, but I'm just going to do it. We are going to be talking about a whopper of a case today. Like, my mind is just... Okay, so this case is going to be Pazuzu Algarad. Have you heard of him? So, this is going to be a self-proclaimed Satanist slash self-proclaimed demon slash monster. I don't know what you would even call him. Or what he even called himself, rather. I just know he worships Satan. And we're going to talk about his life and I guess kind of some things surrounding his name change. So he really did change his name to Pazuzu. So I will be referencing him as Pazuzu throughout the case. I don't mean to laugh. Yeah, it's not a laughing matter. It's just weird that somebody would actually name themselves Pazuzu. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Warning, the following presentation has strong adult language, violence, Satanism, sexual assault, domestic violence, and all kind of other murdery graphic stuff. Oh yeah, there's murder in there too. So warning, there's a disclaimer that this video is going to talk about some heavy and kind of evil stuff. So if you're sensitive to said topics, here's your chance to click out of the video, and I'll catch you next time. If you want to remain watching, stay tuned. So Pazuzu Algarad was born as John Alexander Lawson. He was born on August 19th, 1978 to his parents Cynthia and Timothy Lawson. Now, from everything that I've read, his biological dad, that I've kind of seen that his biological dad was pretty much absent, was not around in his life, did not, just kind of up and left him and his mom. So for a long time, it was just Cynthia and John. At the time, his name was John, and she was raising him in San Francisco, California. Now, John Lawson, aka Pazuzu, was diagnosed with several types of kind of serious mental illnesses at a young age. He was diagnosed schizophrenia, he had manic depressive disorder, and what's the other one he had? Agoraphobic, which was something I never heard of until this case. Agoraphobic is somebody that has a fear of crowds or leaving the house. So basically they just kind of shy away from crowds, shy away from any social events, and just become a recluse pretty much. Yeah, that's the thing. So he was diagnosed with this at like a young age. Okay. He had hardly any friends, little to no friends. They would call him Turd Boy. I mean, kids are so vile. Sometimes they could just be so mean. But they would call him Turd Boy and just all kinds of just crazy nicknames. And I think this probably had a lot to do with his mental illness. He was different than a lot of his peers, right? So he and his mom at some point moved from California to North Carolina, Clemens, North Carolina, to be exact. And he was receiving treatments when he was younger for his schizophrenia and, his manic depression and all of that. He was on some pretty serious medication. He was receiving therapy, and it got to a point that his mom could no longer afford these services. Mom was taking care of him by herself. She just couldn't afford it. It was just too expensive, and they had to stop. So he stopped receiving treatment for his schizophrenia and his manic depression, which, yikes. His mother would report that after he got to be a teenager, he kind of just dropped out of sports. He was in like football, basketball, different sports, and he just kind of got out of that and started dressing really what she says gothic, which started, you know, wearing more black. He shaved off all of his hair, listening to what I call heavy metal music, and just really changing and altering his appearance, which is fine. I mean, I know people my whole life that listened to heavy metal and dressed, you know, in all black, and this is definitely not a jab at them at all. It's a certain lifestyle, and he was into it, right? Well, Mother Cynthia married a guy named Johnny James. That's such a cool name, Johnny James. Johnny James, and they all moved into the house in North Carolina, in Clemens, North Carolina. Johnny and John, aka Pazuzu, did not get along, okay, like at all. Johnny, I guess, eventually had enough of the crap. He accused, from what I read, and I've seen different reports. I mean, it's hard to know what to believe when you're kind of just looking at different websites about what happened, allegedly. And supposedly Johnny had enough of Cynthia enabling Pazuzu, basically. Like, he would live at the home. He really didn't have a job. I mean, this was a grown adult at some point. In fact, when he got to be a grown adult, he legally changed his name to Pazuzu Algarad. Don't know if I pronounced it right. Don't really care. But he legally changed his name to that, because when I first saw this case, I was like, is this guy's name Pazuzu? Really? Yeah, he legally changed his name. Now, if you're not familiar with the name Pazuzu, it is the name of the demon on The Exorcist. If you've seen the movie The Exorcist, where the girl gets possessed by a demon, I think her name is Pazuzu. So it's some kind of demon, Satan, God, whatever. Well, you know, if you're into Satanism, you would probably know who that is. But anyway, that's where he got the name Pazuzu. He legally changed his name in 2002. And his mom, I'm going to get my opinion on her in that situation. His mom enabled him. I mean, I hate to say this, but you're going to see throughout this story that he lived with her. He was not required to have a job. She went to work and footed the bills and paid for everything. And I think it was reported that she would buy him like a 24-pack of beer a day, would give him money when he needed. This is a grown adult. Never did she try to say, hey, maybe you should probably move out and get a job and, you know, maybe get your own place. I don't know. Just be an adult, maybe. So he lived with his mom, and his mom like had a room in the house, okay? So she would just like stay in this room. Like, her room was off limits to Pazuzu and his friends, right? So if you look up the police body cam, or not police body cam, but there's some footage of this house once the investigators went in to, I guess, take pictures and, I guess, examine what the hell they were getting themselves into. It's not pretty. The house is just wrecked and filthy and disgusting, and his mom's room was probably the cleanest room in the house. So she stayed there in all of this, okay? And, I mean, I guess she was reported that she was terrified of him, that she was terrified he was going to get shot, or he was going to get a shotgun and shoot her, because they've had so many calls and reports of domestic violence at the home with either Pazuzu or his girlfriend. He's going to have a few girlfriends that he refers to as fiancés. 2 of them are going to be arrested, I think, in the case, but because they were an accessory and helped him. But they assaulted his mom on a regular, like put her in a chokehold. I mean, just so much awful shit they would do to his mom. And his mom just took it. She was scared of him. She was scared that if she pressed charges, he was going to, because they asked her, you know, hey, do you want to press charges? And she was like, no, that's my son, yada, yada. I mean, okay, your son that just assaulted you, but whatever. So no charges were ever pressed. Like, the boy was never held accountable for any of his actions. So, we're going to talk about Josh Wetzler and Tommy Dean Welsh. Now, what do they have to do with Pazuzu? Well, don't really know how or why or the circumstances surrounding how both guys ended up in their home, because I read different reports that they were kidnapped, and then, Tommy Dean was fatally shot sitting on a sofa. So, I mean, if he was kidnapped, why would he be just sitting on the sofa in the house? Like, Josh Wetzler, I think they kidnapped him and they tied him in the basement, which is disgusting, and starved him for days and days and days. And eventually they shot him. And I don't know anything about Tommy, okay? So I just know that they shot him on the couch. But anyway, this happened. Let me back up for a second. Josh Wetzler I don't know if he was married or if he was just with this girl named Crystal Carter. They two had a son together. So he was a dad. He, liked heavy metal music. He was a hippie. He liked and gravitated toward people that were slightly different, which, me too, nothing wrong with that. However, Josh actually had a drug charge, or a couple of drug charges on him. Now, in the United States, if anyone would happen to watch this that's not from here, once you get a drug charge, it's game over. And this is one of the many corrupt situations and aspects of our justice system. Is a drug charge ends your life. Okay, it goes on your permanent record. You can't get a job. You're classified as a felon. There's just so much wrong with that. I just feel like, good people do bad things, and drug charges should not be there to end your life. It should just, people like that need to be rehabilitated and helped and guided back into society and be given another chance, because yes, there are people that abuse drugs and continue to abuse drugs and will continue to abuse drugs. But then there are people like Josh that he got popped one time for selling drugs. I think he was selling shrooms or something. And then that was that. He could never find a job. He and his wife had to just do little odd end things just to support their son. They were actually in a tight spot whenever Josh went missing, okay? So Josh actually, from what I read from his girlfriend, Stacy, I don't know if it's his girlfriend or his wife. I don't think they were married. I think they were just together. But I'll just call her his girlfriend for purposes. She said that it was common for Josh to disappear for weeks, months at a time. He didn't always have a cell phone, a working cell phone. Money was tight. He would travel to find little odd and end jobs, even if it required him traveling away from home. He did what he had to do to make money. He was also selling drugs, okay? So it was reported that he was selling in order to, I guess, help make ends meet. He couldn't find a job. They had bills to pay. They had a son to take care of, so they had an extra mouth to feed. Like, he needed something, so he was reportedly selling. What he was selling, I don't know. Use your imagination. But Stacy, his girlfriend, said that, she figured he would duck off because she didn't want he didn't want her to tell his parole officer what he was up to and get him in trouble and get arrested again. So when Josh first went missing, it took almost 6 months, I think, for her to file a missing persons report. And it's easy for us to sit here and judge and be like, whoa, why did it take her 6 months to file a missing persons report? But the type of relationship that they had together, it was normal for Josh to up and disappear and just kind of vanish without a trace, but he would always reemerge, I guess. And when Christmas came around and he didn't make an attempt to call his son, that's when she started realizing something was not right. She had made police calls or informal reports. Nothing was being done. Josh wasn't being looked for. Time just kept going on and on and on and on, and no one heard from Josh. The son was asking, where's his dad, and she was just like, well, I don't know, it was a heartbreaking situation. And finally in February of 2010, now Josh was killed in July of 2009. And Stacy did, filed a missing persons report in February of 2010. Okay, so Josh was reported missing in February of 2010. Stacy knew in her heart that something just wasn't right, okay? Now, at this point, there were rumors circulating, because I need to mention that Pazuzu lives in the Bible Belt, is what we like to refer to as certain parts of the country where the community is mostly conservative, Catholic. Everybody kind of follows the same belief system. No real diversity happens in these towns, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean, this was a very church-going town, very religious town. So they were well informed about Pazuzu, his mom, and that house. Matter of fact, neighbors warned their kids several times to stay away from that house because they knew satanic rituals would be performed. Satanic rituals, what are those? Well, I'm not a Satanist, okay? So, I mean, I just kind of did my own research on what satanic rituals are, and you basically, they happen on normally a full moon, where you sacrifice the body of, typically in this case it was an animal, so they would murder animals in their backyard. This is where the animal cruelty comes in. They would keep rabbits in like a cage by the shed and take them out and kill them. It was reported by a witness that Pazuzu would eat the hearts, which, okay. And then after he would slaughter them, he would eat the heart, and then he would smear their blood all over his face and his body. And then he would just burn the flesh, I guess. And he would do that with rabbits. He would do that with cats. Neighbors reported there was a cat hanging from his tree in the yard one day. And in my mind, his mom's living in this house while all this is going on, okay? So they would do these rituals, satanic rituals. They had just shit all over the walls of the house, literal shit, piss, whatever. Markers, they would take marks a lot and write just bullshit all over the walls of the house and the doors. They would take spray paint cans and spray paint like satanic symbols. Inverted cross was on the front door of the home, along with like some weird letter to police officers or law enforcement in general to like stay away and that evil will triumph. And I mean, if you saw the inside of this home, like investigators knew once they actually went in the second time, not the first time, we're going to get to that, okay, something's really fucked up in this house. Excuse my language, but like, seriously, what is going on? So, yeah, there would just be stuff everywhere. There was trash strewn throughout the home. The walls were just written on, spray painted on. They had feces. People would pee in the corner of the home because I guess either they were too fucked up on drugs to use a toilet, or maybe they didn't have running water. I don't know. Some people were kind of speculating that their water was cut off. So, like, that's why people were just, like, peeing and pooping in the corner of I don't know. But I think the mom lived there and was paying the bills. Like, Pazuzu wasn't paying any bills. So, I don't know. But anyway, my point is people would just use the bathroom anywhere in the house. And in addition to this, there were dogs in the home. So the dogs were using the bathroom in the home. I mean, they said that feces and urine was stamped into the carpets and walls. It's like, and his mom lived there. Okay. Anyway, we're going to get to the opinion section at the end. I'm trying to keep on the main story here, Lyndsey. Come on now. Okay. So there was a lot of calls coming in to the police station and just investigators in general about him, because Pazuzu would openly brag to people that would come to his house about how he murdered someone, and he would say he murdered strippers and he ate their bodies, and there was never any like proof to back up what he would say about that. But visitors would come to the home. I mean, he had his followers, right? He had his fiancés. He had women that he would call his fiancés. There were two of them, Crystal Maddox and Amber Birch. They called her Bubbles. They were the main ones that were involved in all of his shit. And then there was another one, Dixie, that was just kind of caught up in everything. But they would frequent his home. This was the home that all of the drug heads, slackers is what we used to call them, people that really kind of had no job, no ambition, nothing going for them, that just wanted to get high and get drunk. This was the home that they would go to. So, like, Pazuzu had a following of people that would go there and just do drugs, get drunk, have an orgy. I mean, it was reported that he had orgies, or he would, like, try to coerce people into having sex. I think I read that he actually raped some women. He raped one girl. I'm not going to just say her name, but he raped her because I don't know the story, but he just was not into some nice stuff. And they would have heavy metal music blaring at all hours of the night. Just the neighbors knew that this was just not a place that they wanted their kids to be. And it was just a nuisance, essentially, for the neighborhood. I mean, I'm pretty sure the neighbors hated him. Every time the kids would go by the property, Pazuzu would, like, scream profanities at them and say that I'm gonna kill you. And I mean, just all kind of crazy stuff that he would do and say. And but these tips started following into, like, police stations and tip lines and whatnot, because these people that were going to his house, you know, they were probably just going to get fucked up and basically have not a care in the world. I mean, I could see the allure, a young person with nothing going for them and just wants to get high and drunk. And they referred to as Pazuzu's place as a no judgment zone, so you could do whatever. There was one guy that was, and there's a docuseries on this too, by the way. So if you look on YouTube, you could find like a 5-part docuseries on Pazuzu, and the friends that were involved in his group did interviews. There was one guy that said, quote, I'm gonna try to quote some of what he said. Yeah, Pazuzu was a friend of mine. We hung out, you know, a lot of times. Sometimes we would do a little heroin together. We would cut each other, you know, sometimes cut a bird and drink its blood, and just have a good time. What? So time goes on, and I think, I don't remember exactly when, but the police did get a search warrant for Pazuzu's home. Okay, now this was after the murders of Joshua and Tommy. I forgot to mention, nothing is online too much about Tommy Welsh. He was the second victim that was discovered in their backyard. I could not find really anything other than that. I think he was a mechanic, and he was shot by Amber on the couch at the home. So I tried to find as much as I could on him, and I could not. But anyway, he was shot a couple months after Joshua. Joshua was shot in July of 2009. Tommy was killed in October of 2009. So, you know, months go by. The police actually get a search warrant because of all these tips coming in. They find nothing. Now, how well did they search this home? I don't know. And I mean, I'm pretty sure they found a shit ton of disgustingness. But they didn't find anything to incriminate, you know, Pazuzu in a murder, as what people were saying. So, I don't know. But enter October of 2010. Pazuzu is an accessory to a separate murder that happens. Joseph Chandler, I believe his name is. So yeah, Joseph Chandler was fatally shot before he put out a cigarette to light it, and he was shot before he could light a cigarette. It was by a boat launch somewhere out in North Carolina, and it was a guy by the name of Nicholas Pasquale. I'll put his name up there, but Pazuzu was evidently the, I think, getaway driver, and provided this guy with a place to stay after he shot and killed this guy. So he was actually he was charged with an accessory to murder, and he was sentenced to 12 months probation. So this is just one of many screw-ups by law enforcement in this case. 12 months probation for being an accessory to a murder. I I don't understand it. I don't understand it. So they searched his house before this happened, didn't find anything. So that tells me they didn't do a good enough job. They didn't really thoroughly search it because there was 2 dead bodies in his backyard buried, right? So obviously you're not searching the way that you should be searching for you to just not realize this. And also, didn't it smell? Like, I'm just wondering, I look really yellow, you guys. I don't understand why I look so yellow. But anyway, my foundation does not look this yellow in person. I don't know. I look like an Oompa Loompa. So, this guy gets killed. The guy, Nicholas, goes to jail. And Pazuzu gets off. He's on 12 months probation. Voila. He's free to roam. So, yet you have people like Josh that is actually a good father and a good guy trying to just make ends meet and resorted to some bad choices like selling drugs. And because he's got a drug charge, they're going to burn him at the stake. But yet people like Pazuzu can literally get away with murder up until the very end, until he didn't. I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand where the logic is. And I just can't stand how yellow I look. We're going to ignore the fact that I look yellow and just carry on, okay? I think it's my light. I know it's my light. I have horrible lighting right here. So, anyway, back to the story. Several years go by. Like, this guy is carrying on with his satanic rituals and his followers. He was sleeping with all kind of women, just basically living on his mother's dime and just not doing anything with himself. Okay? So people were just like, I guess, getting concerned or didn't believe him. Well, they either didn't believe him or, I don't know, they were just too messed up. Whenever Pazuzu would make comments that there was a dead body in his basement or that he killed people. Like, he would get drunk and messed up on drugs, that he would openly share his escapades with people. Like, and people just was like, yeah, okay, whatever, Pazuzu, like, sure you did. They didn't really believe him. Until October of 2014, it all came to an end. All of the blood and the gore came to an end because there was another search warrant that was issued for the home on Nob Hill Drive. This search warrant busted him. They went and did what they probably should have done the first time and exhumed the skeletons that were in the backyard. And everybody thought that it was just one body because he would just say that he killed a guy and buried him. So people were just thinking like, okay, he has a body back there. Like, they found 2. So they uncovered Josh Wetzler and Tommy Dean from Pazuzu's backyard in his home on Nob Hill Drive. They were arrested. That's when the case was busted wide open. So officers walked in, did a search warrant, discovered the 2 bodies in the backyard. Both Amber Birch, Pazuzu's lover, whatever, fiance, whatever, main chick, psychopath, whatever you want to call her, was also arrested on second-degree murder, or, yeah, I think it was second-degree murder charges, and accessories to after the fact. Crystal Maddox was arrested and charged with accessory to murder because she helped bury the victims. So she was an accessory. And that's when the search that's when all the videos popped up of the home and how disgusting it was. The way that these people lived and their lifestyle. I mean, I don't know about you. If you watch this video, you could be feeling pretty good about your lifestyle. I mean, look, I'm a mother. I'm a stepmother. The house isn't always neat, right? In fact, my house could use some cleaning right now. But, like, there's a difference between dirty and, like, just a home that's lived in, you know, and needs to be tidied up a little bit versus, like, full-blown filth. Now, this house was so disgusting that they condemned it. Yes, they slapped a condemnation sign on the front door saying that this is unfit for human habitation. Like, nobody should enter this property. Like, ugh. Well, we know who's calling the shots in that house. So she just dropped off the face of the earth, essentially, after he was arrested and all this came to light. Thankfully, at this point, you know, Josh's family can have some kind of closure and Tommy, I mean, they were able to get closure for their loved one. I mean, they were missing for years. I mean, it took 5 years of calls to authorities about a possible dead body in this guy's backyard, and tips upon tips coming in, and nothing was ever done about it. And finally, 5 years, they find these 2 men that were murdered and buried like nothing. And I mean, at this point, yeah, the family has some kind of closure, right? Well, what's going to happen to the home on Nob Hill Drive? Neighbors were understandably in an outcry of the situation. They wanted the house torn down. They knew that there were some evil stuff happening at that home, but they didn't know, like, to the extent is what they would say, because all the interviews were like, oh, I wish I would have known, I would have helped. Well, you can't always know what's going on behind closed doors. I mean, especially if you can kind of see from the outside that this was a morbid place because of the front door. I mean, the front door was like decorated with skulls and evilness, basically, and just all around blah. So you could just see, I mean, that it was not a good place. But the neighbors were just completely floored when these dead bodies were basically found in this guy's backyard right next to their home. So the neighbors just really wanted this house to be demolished. A lot of people wanted Cynthia arrested for her, I guess, role, because she lived in the house. It was her home. I mean, obviously she was a victim. So I'm kind of going to get down into the trial and the sentencing, in my opinion, right? So it ultimately ended up that Pazuzu was charged for murder. He was awaiting trial when he was found dead by suicide in his jail cell in October of 2015. So a little over a year after he was arrested for these murders, he was found dead by loss of blood in a jail cell. Loss of blood. Well, how did he lose blood? Well, he cut his arm in between the indentation between your elbow. It was said to maybe have bit himself or some kind of way punctured a major blood vessel in his arm, and he bled to death. So he was found dead in his jail cell. Crystal Maddox was sentenced for, she was like 3 years, or with the maximum of 4 years with credit for time served for being an accessory to the fact. So she kind of got off a little easy, in my opinion. And Amber, aka Bubbles, the girlfriend of Pazuzu, she received, I think, a minimum of 30 years in prison with a maximum of 39 years to serve. So, I mean, by the time she would be eligible to be released, she'll be old. So that's where those 2 ladies are. Now, Crystal Maddox will probably get out with time served, and Pazuzu is dead. So Cynthia Lawson, Pazuzu's mother, actually surfaced with an interview a couple years ago, I guess, to kind of just, I don't know, clear the air for her, that she was scared of him, that she felt like he would, if she tried to stop him, he would turn the gun on her. And I mean, this was a fearful woman. Can you imagine being scared of your own child? I've seen plenty of cases where this was the case, where the mother was scared of the son, but like, what an awful feeling to be scared in your own home of your own child. And therefore, she never pressed charges or held him accountable for anything because she was scared of him. I mean, he was never held accountable for anything. And not to mention that she chose to stay in this house. I did see some reports where she had left, like when she was married to Johnny James, that they actually left and she would just come back and check on him. But he was basically free to do what the hell he wanted with the home. And boy, did he. But yet, I don't know, like I've seen a lot of interviews where she lived there. Like, so you're walking through this filth to get ready for work and go to work every day. Like, hell, like I just don't understand this mother. Now, I know we can't judge because we don't ever know a situation unless we're in it, right? So like, it's really easy to be armchair quarterback and sit there and say, well, why she didn't do this, why she didn't do that. Like, these types of situations where there's a lot of violence, and in this case, domestic violence. I mean, she was put in a chokehold by him several times. Even Amber participated in abusing her. So, like, she was a victim herself in a way. So it's easy for us to point fingers and be like, well, she should have done something. But, like, we really don't know unless we're in the situation. However, I think now in hindsight, she's probably wishing she would have did something, or listened maybe to her second husband when he told her, hey, you need to stop catering to his little punk ass, basically make him get a job. Like, that's why he left. Johnny James, he left. And that's why he did not, or Pazuzu did not like him, because Johnny would tell him, you need to get a job. You need to basically stop mooching off of your mother. And, you know, this just was not something Pazuzu was interested in. So all this grown-ass man would do is live off of his mother and drink beer, buy drugs, get high, get drunk, and have sex and perform these satanic rituals and just be a disgusting person, it seems like. There are some parts of me that feel bad for the mom, you know, and just the whole don't judge until you're in the situation. But then another part's like, this is what happens when everybody fails a person with mental illness. It's not just the mother, in my opinion, that failed him. The justice system, because first of all, they let him out of jail. If they would have kept him in jail when he was arrested for that first murder for Joseph Chandler, this probably would have all been avoided. But he was just literally slapped on the wrist, okay? Like 12 months probation. He didn't even receive jail time. Really? So there's that. And then there's the first search warrant that they came out to the house and supposedly looked around and found nothing. This house was found to be disgusting, yes, but there was no evidence to indicate that anything suspicious was going on. So I don't know. I just think it's sad that the mom was trying her best to get him help in the beginning, and she couldn't afford treatment. She couldn't afford the medication. He essentially let himself go because he stopped bathing. He stopped brushing his teeth, doing all the things that we would need to do as a person, or we need to do every day to keep ourselves healthy. Your body needs to be able to fight infection and all of that. So bathing regularly, brushing your teeth, having good hygiene is all part of that. He had none of that. He let all of that go. And so you have a mentally ill person with all of these schizophrenia, manic depression, agoraphobia, that's going untreated. It literally just went untreated, and he used... Now, this is not to excuse anything by any means, but I just feel like had he had the proper treatment, had, I don't know, law enforcement been a little more vigilant about him and in this home and what was going on in the home, had his mother been a little more forthcoming with, you know, everything. Woo! My drawer fell. So that was a loud boom that you heard, and I still look yellow. Oh my gosh. It is the light. But look, you get up close, you can't. It's when I back away. It's got to be this light. I'm going to have to see about getting a new light. I'm not yellow in person. So I just want to make that clear. But anyway, back to the story. So yeah, you have a mentally ill person that is just, he stopped taking care of himself. Nobody's looking out for him. People are essentially probably terrified of him. I mean, they don't want to try to stand in his way. I mean, he's made threats to several people that, you know, if you try to stop, you're going to help me do this, or I'm going to kill you. And I mean, I really don't think those were empty threats. I think those were legit threats. And just a whole entire just barrage of circumstances. The healthcare system failed him. His mom wasn't able to get help for the medication that he would have needed to take on a regular basis, so he didn't turn out to be, I don't know, a Satanist or a crazy psycho. And I mean, this is so just not a means to lump all people with schizophrenia and manic depression in the same boat, okay? Because I do understand, and I do know people that are actually really good people that have schizophrenia and various mental disorders. It's not their fault, but they are on medication. They are treating it, finding a way to treat it, and just really just trying to not let their disorder take over their lives, okay? Which is what Pazuzu should have been doing. Instead, he just said, fuck the world. And I think a lot of it had to do with being in the Bible Belt. He was fueled by, his hatred of religion and everyone around him, and he just did nothing. It got to the point where he did nothing but sit in his home and do just satanic, just disgusting shit, basically. So yeah, when mental illness goes untreated like that, it could just be a total, just a scary thing. And we live in a world or a country where mental health care facilities are cut. Mental programs for the mentally ill are cut. Like, mental illness is not really looked at as a true illness a lot of times because you can't see it. It's not like a physical ailment, right? Which I feel like is the main mentality in this country. And I just don't understand how someone like this can slip through the cracks and just go so far down the dark side, is what I like to call it. And people not only saw what was happening, but they enabled it. They went along with it. His mother, his so-called friends, the neighbors. I mean, I know that the neighbors had to have seen some stuff. And I mean, the tips that were called in went unsubstantiated. Like, the cops never did anything with a lot of the tips that were coming in the beginning. They probably could have caught him a lot sooner had they taken a lot of these phone calls seriously. I think they pegged him off as just a weirdo that likes heavy metal and an outcast, basically. I mean, and the rumors were kind of far-fetched, so to speak. I really think that's what it all comes down to. And I think just this case, y'all, this case has got me just shook up so bad because it just angers me. It angers me that all of that had to happen, and it happened for so long that nobody noticed anything or smelled anything. I mean, you have 2 dead bodies in the backyard. Wouldn't someone smell something after a while? Like, wouldn't that become a little stinky? I mean, I don't know. And then it was reported that he kept the bodies in the basement before burying them, so like for a couple days. I don't know. It's just so much WTF going on in this case, and I can't even. But I just feel like, of course, mental illness played a huge part in this, untreated mental illness, more importantly. And just having a mother that enabled him instead of trying to help him, and a healthcare system failing by not getting him the help that he needed. And I don't know, it was just a recipe for disaster. So that is the case of Pazuzu Algarad. It kind of a violent one. It was not too long, but it was definitely a violent and disgusting case. So I didn't want to go too much into detail about like the murders and whatnot, just out of respect for the victims and their family. I just kind of dabbed a little bit into their back history and how they died. They died of gunshot wounds. I don't know if I mentioned that, but they did die. Tommy and Josh died of gunshot wounds to the head. So they were like sacrificed. I don't know. Just a sad situation. I feel like mental illness is a very big issue, and it has been for a long time. It's just, we live in a country that brushes it under the rug. We convict drug users. We pin them to the cross and burn them at the stake pretty much as soon as you get a drug conviction. But yet people like this that do things to animals and harm people could slip through the cracks and still have a second chance at life and doing it all over. I don't know, y'all. Let me know your opinion down below on it. We all know the justice system is corrupt, and the overall views of mental illness in this country is corrupt, but this is definitely a case that exonerates that, or exemplifies that. That's the word, not exonerate. Exemplifies. It exemplifies that what mental illness can do if it's not treated properly, okay? So definitely not a jab towards people with schizophrenia or manic depression or anything like that. But this dude, Pazuzu, really needed some help, and he just did not get the help he needed, and he went off the deep end, and unfortunately 2 people had to die because of it. So very sad case. Feel free to let me know your opinions and your thoughts down below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can get notified every time I upload a new video. And I love you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing and watching and tuning in with me. Kind of did something a little different today with the makeup. I'm going to have to figure out my lighting situation because I do not like how this lighting, I look like an Oompa Loompa. So, Oompa Loompa Lyndsey signing off. Like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts and opinions on the contents of this video. Take care, guys.